Hello, Scary. Come on in.
With Halloween, she kept the scope from 1930 to 1940, the decade considered, for good reason, the peak of the Golden Age. Also, as I'm sure you could tell, this video is totally different from what I was putting out a few years ago. Do let me know what you think, any good or bad thoughts you have on my presentation or the list itself, in the comments below. Alright, let's get to it. Number 10. The Magic Mummy. Let's kick off the list with a Tom and Jerry cartoon. No, not them. There we go. These guys debuted about a decade before the cat and mouse we all know today, and contrary to what many claim, the two duos are unrelated. These two humans were the property of Van Buren Studios, which was actually located in New York, across the street from Fleischer. Despite being an animation pioneer, and many Fleischer workers also contributing to their cartoons, Van Buren films were not very good compared to the competition of the time. Uninteresting characters and boring, muddled stories meant that their creations, including the Tom and Jerry series, just didn't have the sticking power of other tunes. The one thing they did have? Surrealism. And here we find the Magic Mummy. In this film, we see Tom and Jerry as policemen who have been sent after a mysterious figure who's stolen a sarcophagus from the museum. We quickly discover that the criminal in question is a sorcerer who uses his powers to transform the mummy back into her living woman form. Why does he want an ancient Egyptian woman? Since the Tom and Jerry cartoons are all public domain, I can show you.
Sing! Sing!
Don't worry though, he's not just having the girl sing so he could enjoy it. That'd be really weird. He's actually getting her to sing to entertain a bunch of skeletons. This mummy woman sounds a lot like Mae Questel, the voice of Betty Boop, but since she was recorded at Van Buren, the sound quality is pretty horrendous. Also, how is an ancient Egyptian singing in English? Like, she doesn't even have an accent. Though it's not very good quality, this cartoon is at the start of the list simply because there are creepier cartoons. Even if it wasn't a challenge to listen to, or even to look at times, and therefore it was easier to be invested in the spookiness, at best it would only move it up a single spot or so. If you're wanting to check out this Tom and Jerry series for early animation's sake, I'll warn you as somebody who's seen most of it that this is probably the best film the duo have to offer. Number 9. Bimbos Initiation. Our journey continues across the street from Van Buren with the aforementioned Fleischer Studios. These days, the works and innovations of Fleischer are not known by most people. Though just about everybody is familiar with Betty Boop and Popeye and their early black and white cartoons, very few people know who made them. Hell, later on Fleischer created the first Superman cartoons. Throughout the early 1930s, they were essentially neck and neck with Disney as far as the most popular animation studio was concerned. While the majority of Walt Disney films were happy and lighthearted, the majority of Fleischer films were surreal and mature. We'll encounter several of these shorts as we move down the list, and hopefully by the end of this video you better understand what I mean. But for now, let's focus on the tune in front of us. As the title suggests, it stars Bimbo, a dog who was the studio's star between their earliest period with Coco the Clown and their peak with Betty Boop and Popeye. Betty Boop was actually created as a love interest for him, before she stole the show herself. Anyway, Bimbo falls through a manhole and finds himself in the hideout of some strange cult.
Wanna be a member? Wanna be a member?
No.
Ooh, bad choice. The rest of the cartoon sees our anthropomorphic friend faced with various, all potentially fatal challenges? I'm not really sure what to call these. There's axes, spikes, suspended pianos, and if you're like Bimbo and don't want to join the group, the only goal seems to be to survive for your own sake. From all of the life-threatening obstacles to particularly the ending, this short is the perfect example of Fleischer's trademark weirdness and unpredictability. The entire time you're watching, you're just prepared to see Bimbo cut in half, or to see these weirdos take out surgical tools. It's all so unnerving, and again, it is impossible to guess what will happen in a classic Fleischer cartoon that you've never seen before. And that's what makes them so great, in addition of course to the terrific animation, fun voice acting, and music scores that fit every scene like a glove. If you can't tell, I really like Fleischer's stuff. It's my favorite animation studio of all time, and I want to do everything I can to spread the word of their terrific pioneering cartoons that hold up to this very day. And I suppose I can't continue to do that unless we get to another one of their shorts. So let's keep going. Number 8. The Case of the Stuttering Pig. In my opinion, Warner Brothers cartoons are the funniest ever made. Many people in the industry consider Looney Tunes, or Merry Melodies, the greatest animated series of all time. The perfect comedic timing, the side-splitting voice acting, the endless barrage of gags that include slapstick, plays on words. And of course, it's all drawn terrifically, and the stories are backed by wonderful soundtracks. They're truly the gold standard of animation for the entire world. No matter what genre you're in, no matter what your cartoon looks like, there is something you can learn from these shorts to put into your own work. That being said, within the animated circus that is Looney Tunes lie a couple of installments with an undeniable creepy factor. Enter The Case of the Stuttering Pig, which admittedly may not be the creepiest film in the series, but it's the only nominee from the decade we're looking at. Porky and his gajillion siblings are told by Lawyer Goodwill that they're the recipients of their dead uncle's inheritance, so says his will. But if anything were to happen to them, said inheritance would instead go to Goodwill himself. Yeah, you can probably see where this is going. Lawyer Goodwill somehow has an entire laboratory beneath the pig's house, where he concocts a potion that turns him into a monster. This transition is actually kind of freakish, as are the later scenes in which Goodwill is stalking Porky. Just, it's hideous. As you may expect, though, with this being a Looney Tunes short and all, it's not all doom and gloom, and actually, overall, this cartoon's pretty funny. There's a really interesting repeating gag in which evil Goodwill mocks that guy in the third row, talking directly to the camera and shattering the fourth wall. This film is a good balance of creepy and goofy. Number 7. Spooks. After an ugly falling out with Big Walt himself, adept cartoonist and Mickey Mouse co-creator Ub Iwerks left Disney to establish his own studio, which he named after himself, like everyone else. Alright. Despite the undeniable fact that Iwerks was an incredible animator, overall his cartoons were pretty bland. Sure, they were easily better than Van Buren's stuff, but the reason is entirely visual. They're generally on the same level overall when it comes to boring stories and characters. Ub Iwerks' signature character, or Tom and Jerry, was Flip the Frog. Being fully honest, Flip is a really enjoyable character who is pretty different from all the other animated stars at the time. I mean, his catchphrase was literally, how could you not love that? Anywho, after getting caught in the rain, Flip seeks shelter in a random lone standing house. This is how they all start, isn't it? Yep, and the house is inhabited by skeletons. What a shock. It seems as though skeletons were the thing to draw during the early 30s, and fortunately for us, Iwerks is probably the best ever in animating them. The ghouls in question seem hospitable at first, making Flip and even the viewer feel guilty for just assuming they had bad intentions. But, lo and behold, the main skeleton dude that runs the house realizes that Flip's skeleton is the last one he needs to complete his collection of various sized skeletons. What a doozy. Actually, how are those skeletons dead? Like, truly dead. But all these guys aren't? What? I'll admit, by 30s cartoon standards, this is a good viewing. It's very unpredictable, and again, the animation is very well drawn. Normally, I'd label the inconsistent music as a negative, but this time around it just works to create an unsettling atmosphere. Sometimes all we hear are sound effects and dialogue, which in my opinion, works in Spooks' favor. This is a creepy, unique cartoon, and unlike Tom and Jerry, I'd actually recommend the Flip the Frog series. It can be very good fun, and the worst installments at least deliver on the visual front. Also, if you're curious, Balloon Land is my nominee for the best cartoon that Iwerks Studio ever made. It's actually one of my favorites in general, and is on par with Fleischer's Tier 2 stuff. Number 6. Plutos Judgment Day. We can all agree with my brother. That is an astonishing title. Just like Ub did in real life, let's leave Iwerks Studio and go back to Disney. Unlike all of the previous entries, the studio that made the upcoming cartoon needs absolutely no introduction. We all know Disney, which is again why that title is such a bombshell. So, let's just cut right to the chase. What happens in this ultra-saccharine, family-friendly Disney cartoon is that Pluto is put on trial in hell. Oh, okay. Pluto's been harassing cats all over the neighborhood, to the point where even Mickey has had enough. Then, while he's sleeping, his spirit, or something, sees another cat, and of course the schmuck runs after it. And, hey look, the cat was evil, and the mangy mutt just got jebaited. Actually, I'm not even sure if I can call this cat evil. Pluto kinda had it coming at this point. What? What's that? Oh, I'm being too harsh. Well, why don't you take a look at the overwhelming evidence presented to this biased cat judge and biased cat jury? Again, I'm trying to figure out what side I'm on. I really do feel like these guys have every right to be leaning.
He'll get justice. Justice.
Like, it's shown to be evil and unfair, but at the same time, Pluto has just been sadistically and relentlessly attacking this community. He even drowned one of them in a river. So, obviously, Pluto is found guilty. Hooray. And is carried by an angry kitty mob to a pit of fire, where he's to be roasted alive. Just a reminder that we're watching a Disney film, Not a spoof or a parody or fanfiction. This is Disney. And unfortunately, because of that, we know that none of this is going to actually have happened, and it's all going to end up being a dream. What a shame. The animation and colors in this one are particularly crisp and tell the story wonderfully. The expressions these cats make are so real, surreal even, that the short just comes alive. It really is like you're actually there, and the gags within are all pretty good, with the exception of one racist song number. Halfway down the list at number 5.
The old man of the mountain.
Well, you heard him, the old man of the mountain. The first thing you should know about this fine-looking individual is that he does not take no very well. Actually, he doesn't take it at all. For many people legitimately familiar with the work of Fleischer Studios, this cartoon is a favorite, and it's easy to see why. Great animation, expressive characters, thrilling action, creative and fun gags, and an interesting, if somewhat questionable, story. But the main treat here is the music. All of it is performed by the great Cab Calloway and his orchestra. Calloway was a brilliant African-American jazz vocalist as well as bandleader, whose songs were catchy with fascinating lyrics and whose dance moves were equally awesome. He actually collaborated 3 times with Fleischer, making for 3 phenomenal cartoons, but for now, let's focus on this one here. Calloway actually voiced every character in this film. Except for Betty Boop, of course. He begins as a lion, and after a quick intro of the forest animals fleeing, we're given an idea of what the old man of the mountain is like from him as an owl. He sings of a ruthless, savage, primitive, uncivilized mountain dweller who's been terrorizing the animal people. And what does Betty Boop say?
I'm going up to see that old man of the mountain.
You know what? Sure. Fine. Let's go see him. Let's watch him sing. Let's watch him dance. Let's watch him... Oh no. It's just so weird to see, because on one hand he's such a stupid, goofy character, but on the other hand he's a handsy freak. Do I laugh? Do I jam out to Cab's jazzy singing? I don't know. I mean, I know what not to do, and that's feel comfortable at all with what is probably a top 5 worst gag I've ever seen in a classic short.
What's that?
The old man of the mountain.
Weinstein of the Wilderness here actually got Fleischer into a good bit of trouble. Even in its time, when there weren't too many rules surrounding cartoons, and said cartoons were viewed as entertainment for any age, Betty Boop and her antics were seen as a bit too risque for many viewers. In other words, they were not matching the old man's freak. Actually, come to think of it, just about every male character in this universe is a weirdo. Maybe they were onto something. Number 4. Mad Hatter. I don't remember how I came across this one, but I do recall that pretty much nobody was as shaken by this cartoon as I was. Maybe it's just even more obscure than some of these other shorts? I'm of course not the first person to make a list like this, but I didn't see it on anybody else's while researching. In fact, I didn't see much of anything when I looked up this film online, just that Mel Blanc's in it. That's awesome. The short follows a girl named Macy as she goes about her uncanny valley life. I don't know how to describe it, and actually this goes for the whole cartoon. I know that these are supposed to be jokes. They're supposed to be funny and satirical and over-exaggerated. You're just supposed to laugh. And I do, don't get me wrong, I do. But at the same time, I'm also unnerved and a little spooked by this. It's just so bizarre seeing this woman get up 5 minutes before her shift, get ready in this manner, and then make it just in time only to read and eat chocolate at a snail's pace. Eventually, Macy wants a hat. She doesn't like any of the ones she's shown, but then she sees a picture of one that's, quote, made to order. Enter the Hat Workshop. It is here we find them, the titular Mad Hatters. They're mentally handicapped men who are kept in asylum-like cells, only let out to make hats. You can probably predict what happens. The one that makes Macy's hat is let out, he makes an F- replica of it, and she buys it. Then we see the city sidewalks alive with women all wearing outlandish hats, followed by a salute to all of the men who gave up their families and their lives to make them. I know it's supposed to be satire. Again, I know it's just supposed to be funny, or maybe even a commentary on fashion at the time that was seen as ridiculous. But once again, there's just something so off-putting about all of this that I can't put my finger on. Maybe I've read too much dystopian literature as of late, but I'm just provoked by what's going on here for reasons I'm not sure of. It just irks me. Maybe it's the way all the people look more like actual people, rather than caricatures. I think it's just the little narration at the end. The idea of going mental and forgetting who you are and who the people you love are is just so mortifying for me. This was a real thing that happened in history, both hatmakers going crazy from mercury exposure, as well as people being separated from their loved ones and taken to quote-unquote mental hospitals. Who knows, though? I'll reiterate that I couldn't find anybody else on the internet, or that I shared the cartoon with, who was as bothered by it as me. If you've got the time, check it out and let me know what you think. After this video, of course. Come on, stay here. We're almost done. And I need watch time. Number 3. Swing You Sinners. The perfect respite from Mad Hatter. This one is my second favorite cartoon of all time. The music, the gags, and oh goodness the animation. You Cuphead fans remaining on my channel may recognize this one as the Moldenhauer brothers' biggest influence when creating the game, to the point where beating the devil rewards you with the Swing You Sinners achievement. This short is so nonsensical, so surreal and directionless, so just weird, that it's hard to find a cartoon more perfect. All that happens is that Bimbo gets caught trying to steal chickens and is chased by a policeman into a haunted graveyard. Of course, there's creative acid trip visuals before the graveyard, but it's really here that the cartoon shines for all that it is. This variety of monsters and ghouls, of scenarios and songs, this thing is just packed to the brim with imagination. I've heard that most of the animators who worked on this short had never animated before, and while I couldn't find any concrete proof of that being true, it doesn't have to be. Grim Natwick, Willard Bowski, James Colhane, so many legends drew this that it's just radiating with genuinity and legitimate love for this art form. Fleischer's utilization of both music and animation is unmatched. The way that the music brings out these cartoons, and of course vice versa, it's just incredible. The whole thing is one big ramp up, things make less and less sense, and Bimbo faces more and more ghastly fiends until it's just abstract. In the end, every dead person ever is chasing him into a cave, and once he goes in, there's just no background. It's just doodles flying around, a pot-bellied frog scat singing, and then our hero swallowed by a skull. He tried stealing a couple chickens, and these ghosts are talking about,
Brother, you sure gonna get your face lifted and a permanent shave.
I cannot emphasize enough how fantastic this cartoon is, just how fantastic all Fleischer cartoons are. This music, these monsters, this mayhem, this masterpiece. I truly don't get how these cartoons have damn near faded into obscurity like they have. Guys, Disney's competition for this, as in released 2 days after, was Monkey Melodies. It's just monkeys dancing. I beg you, watch this cartoon. In fact, watch as many Fleischer cartoons as you can. I wholeheartedly promise that you will be beyond entertained. Number 2. The Mad Doctor. Alright, what's going on here? Which one of you pissed off Disney enough for him to make this?
Monkey melodies. It's just monkeys dancing.
Oh, right. Okay, let's get to the finish. The creepiest classic cartoon is The Mascot. Firstly, we have to figure out where to start. Starovich's original creation is about 35 minutes long, too long for distributors. So the film was cut down about 8.5 minutes, and in the process lost parts of the plot that helped the story make sense. But hey, that means it gains creepy points. Now let's narrow our scope even more. The short as a whole is about a poor toy-making mother whose son is very sick. One of her tears brings a toy dog to life, and the dog Duffy goes on a perilous journey to get the boy... What? No, not a cure. An orange. Duh. I tell you this plot because if we were to look solely at the segment that got the Mascot the #1 spot, nobody would have ever guessed that that is the main happening of the film. What am I talking about? Well, a lot of people divide the short into 3 parts. Lo and behold, the middle part is the one most people are familiar with, because for some reason it's regularly screened and broadcasted on its own without the beginning and the end. This middle segment of about 10 minutes is alternatively known as The Devil's Ball, and features very little of cute little Duffy. What does it feature instead? Man, you're asking a lot of questions, but don't worry, I like questions. Surprisingly, it actually features the devil, who was born from an alcoholic's bottle of liquor. And you guessed it, he throws a party. The attendees are... well, I'm really not sure what they are. They look like monsters, but a lot of them also look to be made of trash. Speaking of trash, that fugly monkey just drugged a ballerina. But don't worry, her boyfriend... action figure? He steps in and whoops the hell out of Bubbles here. The devil even offers him a knife to finish the job. But good choice. And don't worry, he still rips the heart out of the monkey. Through its mouth, if you're curious. From there, your guess is as good as mine as to what's happening in the film. Legitimate killing, drinking, drugging, all done in uncanny stop motion. That will most certainly do it. Though stop motion animations aren't cartoons, I think we can all agree that the Mascot is most deserving of this spot. If I haven't said it or shown it enough, I adore these classic cartoons. They're animation history, of course, but they're worth so much more than that, with character. They are beautiful works of art in their own right. I hope you join me in watching and promoting as many of these shorts as possible, and I also hope you join me in future reviews. Thanks for watching this new kind of video. Again, your thoughts and opinions would be greatly appreciated, as well as suggestions for future video topics. They don't have to be Golden Age animation related. Any animation from any era and any part of the world will do. I hope to see you next time, and I hope you have a happy Halloween, whatever that means to you.
It's nice to rest your